Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. I had a video all set to go on today, and I decided to hold that one till next week because right now I want to follow up a little bit better on the video that I did last week when I talked about watches and their alarms, and mostly that's going to be Casio watches because that's what I have, Casio watches. So I got a lot of comments after I posted that video, and I thought I would kind of respond to those comments. Now, some kind of extreme on the positive and kind of extreme on the negative. I remember watching the Olympics as a kid. We watched figure skating, or we'd watch gymnastics or something like that. And at the time, it was the Cold War, the USSR versus the USA, and the countries kind of affiliated with either side. And so it was fun to kind of watch how the judges would judge the event. And they had this thing where they would take the highest score and the lowest score and just kind of throw those away and just concentrate on the scores that were somewhere in the middle. So when it comes to comments on a YouTube video, sometimes I have to kind of think that way. The most extreme positive, the most extreme negative, maybe kind of ignore those and think about the ones that are a little bit across the spectrum in between. So the comments I got about Casio watches and their alarms ranged from I love them, they're perfect, don't change a thing, to, well, they're not very loud, but they're okay and they're what I'm used to, so it's fine. Versus some that were like, I don't like the Casio alarms, they're not loud enough, there aren't enough options, but otherwise I like Casio watches, so I guess I'll live with this, but I'm kind of angry about it. To some, just a few comments where like, Casio watches are garbage. They're made of cheap plastic, and every time you change a battery, you destroy the water resistance. And I hate to say I'm going to ignore those comments because I got some Casio watches that I've had for over 30 years, and they're okay. And I've changed the battery several times, and they're still okay. So the idea that there's something wrong with them inherently, I just don't accept that. So, all right. One thing that I kind of glossed over is that if you're dissatisfied with the alarms on your watch, maybe the thing that you should try, or that people would encourage you to do, is concentrate on the alarms on your smartphone, because there is a level of versatility there, and the way you can set those alarms, different sounds, different volumes, different times, different specific days, and those things like that. So, and most people do use their smartphones for a lot of those reminders, more than they would their watch. You could argue that it's easier to set up a reminder or an alarm on your smartphone than it is pressing a series of buttons to try and configure it on your watch anyway. And this leads to something that I kind of ignored in the last video, was what about a smart watch, okay? So my thoughts on smart watches and why right now I still think I don't want one, but I don't know if that'll change. I'm thinking maybe it won't change, but here are my thoughts on smart watches. Okay, I think of a smart watch like an Apple Watch or the smart watches from Samsung. Those are kind of the leaders there. I think of them more as an extension of the functions of your phone, and kind of an extension of the screen on your phone. So it's still, to me, a very smartphone-based thing. And so you're getting your notifications, something that says you've got email or a text or something like that. It's kind of coming from your phone and going to the watch. Now, I know that watches now, the smart watches, are a little bit more independent than that. They can maybe connect to Wi-Fi separate from the phone, or even cellular separate from the phone, and you can get those notifications right on the watch. But still, for most of us, and unless you want to spend more for cellular phone service and the devices, the hardware itself, you're probably going to have just a device that's tethered to the phone, and that's how it does everything that it does. So I'm not necessarily very impressed with the idea of just an extension of the phone onto another screen. Now, as I say that, I have to temper that with this idea. Okay, I remember seeing a meme a few years ago where someone was kind of trying to make a joke out of the idea that before the iPhone, which first was released around the middle of 2007. So before that, people wore watches. Then after they got their smartphones, and most specifically the iPhone, they didn't wear watches anymore because it was all on the phone. And then around 2015, when the Apple Watch was first introduced, suddenly we were back to wearing a watch again. And so this meme I saw was kind of celebrating that period in between from around 2007 to around 2015, where this glorious time where we had nothing on our wrists. And wasn't that wonderful? And now we're back to wearing stuff on our wrists again. Well, for me, it never stopped. I like wearing watches. And one thing that I noticed when people I worked with, friends of mine, whatever, started using iPhones is that I would see this move. You know, if I wanted to tell the time, I would just do this. Oh yeah, there's the time. If some of these other folks wanted to check the time, they'd do this move. Let's see. Yeah, oh, there's the time. Okay, there I go. And I would think, what were you checking there? I was just checking what time it was. All that just to check the time? I do this. You know, so I was kind of feeling a little, superior because this seemed like a lot of move just to check the time. And so fast forward a few years to, say, today, when the work that I do, there's a lot of kind of running around and someone sends me an address or a phone number and says, meet this person at this time at this address. And I get that notification as a text or maybe something through an app that tells me, here's what we want you to do today. And so I get my phone vibrates or rings or makes a sound or something. And now I'm the one doing this move to see the message I got. And the guys with the Apple Watches are doing this move to see the message that they got. So yeah, it goes full circle there. So, but what's the point that I'm trying to make here? Why am I not ready to make this move to get my emails and my texts and my notifications and have little apps and have a calculator on there? Part of it is, I'm getting old enough to where a tiny screen is not ideal anymore to look at some apps and do some things and push some buttons and write some messages, even though that's possible on these smartwatches. Another thing that I'm not necessarily sold on is the idea that the smartwatch has to be recharged basically every day or overnight, right? I think the Apple Watch has like a 40-hour power reserve, but if you use it a lot, then just figure, 40 hours is less than 2 days. So just every night, put it on the charger. And so that kind of bothers me. I'm not used to that. This is kind of a lifestyle change. And one that I'm really not ready for. I like this watch here. It's solar powered. It charges itself with just regular everyday use, and I can go years and years and years, never worry about the battery, versus a smartwatch where I would have to charge it every night. And it's inductive charging. And I don't necessarily like inductive charging because it's a device that creates an electromagnetic field that is much larger than the space you need to charge the device. And that can interfere with other devices that maybe, like say a radio controlled watch that's trying to do multiband 6 on the nightstand next to your Apple Watch that's charging, I don't think your multiband 6 is going to work right anymore. So that's a thing to be concerned with. Not to mention, and I'm not necessarily saying this is a concern, but there are those who think that the jury is out as to whether having an electromagnetic field, say on your nightstand right next to your head, might do something to you. The exposure to that electromagnetic field may not be perfectly safe. And like I said, I don't know about that, but So, and the other thing is, okay, let's say I forgot to charge my smartwatch and I go off to work and in the middle of the day, my watch battery runs out on the smartwatch. Well, that's okay. I can just plug it in at work. Well, it may not be a convenient place to plug in my watch and charge it up. I know some of them have a very rapid charge available, so maybe in just about 10 minutes or so it can be charged up quite a bit and could last you the rest of the day. Or in 45 minutes it could be 80% charged. I think that's what they're saying about the newest Apple Watch. But again, did you bring your charger to work or is it still sitting at home on your nightstand? That sort of thing. So I'm not used to the lifestyle thing of having to maintain another battery every day. So there's that. Now, the smartwatch, like the Apple Watch, does a lot more than just extend the screen from the phone onto your wrist. It also has the new ones, some heart monitoring device in there, or even an oxygen sensor. So you can do all kinds of stuff to monitor your health using this watch. So, I mean, if you think of the expense of just buying a heart monitor that's portable and buying an oxygen sensor that's portable to monitor your oxygen, and you kind of discount that from the price of an Apple Watch, I think you got a pretty good deal there. But do you want that? I don't know. To me, I'm thinking people who have the Apple Watch are probably young. And, young and healthy, those words go together. So if you're young and healthy, why are you so worried about monitoring your heart all the time? But I don't know. They say obesity is a problem even among the young. So I'm sorry. It's not like when I was younger or when your grandparents were younger. Maybe just because you're young, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are healthy. So maybe you do have to monitor your heart. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm being a little I'm glib about that, So, but honestly, people that are young, they're probably pretty healthy, and I don't know that they need a heart monitor on all the time. It's just kind of trivia. It's just kind of, I'm keeping track of this for the fun of it, but I don't really need to call my cardiologist every night and report what my watch had recorded, So now, if I did get a smartwatch, well. Casio makes one, and most of the smartwatch features on it are related to health and fitness stuff, and maybe GPS tracking and that sort of stuff. So you can go for a hike, your watch, the GPS receiver will kind of keep track of where you went, and you can look at that trail information later on, and okay, that's really neat. But do you need that? I don't know. Your phone would do that. If you got your phone with you and your watch with you, it's a little bit redundant, perhaps. If I got a smartwatch, I don't know if I'd get a Casio because I'm a big fan of Casio, right? I probably wouldn't get the Samsung watch just because I'm kind of tied to the Apple ecosystem already. Right here I have, this is a first generation iPad. This one is from the year 2010. And I need to charge the battery up on it, but if I do charge the battery up, it actually still works. It doesn't do as much as it used to do. I mean, not necessarily compatible with the latest software updates on every website and browser and that sort of thing. But, so I've had an iPad starting from 10 years ago, and I've got another one now that's a little more up to date. I got the iPod Touch. I eventually got the iPhone. So, I'm tied into the Apple ecosystem. So if I got a smartwatch, probably be that Apple Watch. I guess the Apple Watch can do some neat things. I guess if I got one as a gift or something, I'd probably start enjoying it and be fine. But right now, I'm just kind of hesitant on spending the money and kind of the change of habit, the change of lifestyle that would incorporate an Apple Watch into everything I do with all my other Apple devices. So I don't think I'm quite ready for that. But you can do neat things with it, sure. I mean, you can listen to music, you can get your text messages, you can have all those alarms and reminders and things. You can even, I guess, watch videos on it if you know how. You can get a video on there. And I was trying to remember. There was the old Dick Tracy cartoon or comic book that I remember seeing stuff about it when I was growing up. It was already kind of an old concept. Dick Tracy, one of the neat gadgets he had, which was unthinkable when it was invented for the comics, was a watch that the top part of it had, just a little dial with an analog watch, and the bottom part of it was a speaker. So someone would say, calling Dick Tracy, and he'd talk back and forth. So it was like a hands-free phone call right there on his wrist, and that was this amazing kind of crazy invention that you only see in comic books or science fiction. But now we have that. I thought that maybe when I was growing up there was also a Dick Tracy watch that I saw in a cartoon or somewhere where it was a video screen, so it was kind of what we would think of as FaceTime, but on his wrist. And I guess the Apple Watch is not yet ready to do that. However, I did see a kind of a third-party thing which had a little camera on it, and maybe there's something like that, and fully realized every iteration of Dick Tracy, you could have, a FaceTime conversation right there, instead of the burden of having one like this or like this, right? But the first time I got a phone that could actually play videos on it, I think I put Lawrence of Arabia on a video file and loaded it onto the phone, just for the sake of messing with people. It's like, hey, I've got this great blockbuster epic movie, Academy Award winner. Hey, let's watch it on this tiny screen. It's made for 70 millimeter Super Panavision, but let's watch it on this tiny screen. And I just thought that sounded funny. But if I could watch Lawrence of Arabia on an Apple Watch, It'd be even smaller. And I would demonstrate that for you, except I don't really have the copyright to show you clips from Lawrence of Arabia. I don't want to hassle with that. So maybe if Casio made a smartwatch that you could use to watch movies on it, rather than watching Lawrence of Arabia, maybe you could watch the Good Timekeeping Show, and you could watch that on your Casio smartwatch, and it might look something like this. Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. I had a video all set to go on today, and I decided to hold that one till next week. Because right now, I know I'm sounding a little bit glib and a little bit negative on smartwatches in general, but what are some good things about smartwatches? So I got this friend who lives in California, and he has been into computer graphics and digital animation for 30 years, longer than 30 years, I'm sure. So one thing, he got himself a Samsung watch, smartwatch, and one thing he loves to do on it is design his own watch faces. So he showed me some of them, and he even made like his own little knockoff imitation G-Shock face, and it actually looks really good the way he made it. It makes it look like a G-Shock. Or he's got one that looks like a flip clock, and he's got all different kinds of designs, having to do with movies or comic books or whatever the stuff he's into. And so he has a great time with that in his free time. I suppose it keeps him out of trouble, to have a nice hobby of creating fun clock faces that he can then transfer right onto his smartwatch and have. It's almost like wearing a different watch every day if you have that, in addition to all the other apps on there. So that's fun. That's tempting. But again, for me, it's like change your whole lifestyle to accommodate now using the watch. For some folks, I'm sure you're into the fitness apps. You're into tracking your miles and your steps and your heart rate and all that stuff. And so I don't begrudge you the idea that there's a convenient little gadget that can do that for you. So, but other than those kinds of things, I'm just not ready to get a smartwatch right now. And disagree with me if you feel like it. I think a lot of people that watch this channel are more into kind of more traditional watches, analog or digital, that maybe have a few things like Bluetooth connectivity. And even some people, even there's a nice looking watch with Bluetooth and they're like, yeah, I like it, but I don't want Bluetooth. So some of the folks that are on the same page with me still thinking, yeah, smartwatch, really not my thing. Some folks, when I say I've got a Casio watch that's 50-meter water resistant, it's great. You can go swimming. You can do whatever you want with this 50-meter water resistance. People's like, no, 50-meter water resistance is not sufficient. Well, your Apple Watch is 50-meter water resistance, and I don't hear a lot of young folks complaining that, oh, my Apple Watch, I can't do anything because it's not water resistant enough. So there's a different mindset from the traditional watch crowd to the smartwatch crowd as far as lots of different aspects of the watch. So I don't know that I have that much more to say my thoughts about smartwatches. Obviously, a G-Shock watch is very tough, and I don't think a smartwatch, an Apple Watch, for example, will ever be quite as tough as a G-Shock. They want to make it all about the screen, and the screen is very much exposed. And even though they've taken measures to make the screen material tougher and thicker than ever, as far as the new Apple Watch is going to have the toughest screen ever, it's still not going to be as tough as a G-Shock. I wouldn't expect it to be, and that's okay. If I had an Apple Watch, I would treat it differently from a G-Shock. Certainly, I would. I will freely admit that some of my attitude about the smartwatch, especially the Apple Watch, might be just old man thinking. I don't want that new gadget. Oh, all the kids are into that, and I don't need that. Yeah, that may be a part of it. But it's also, the cost of getting one, maintaining one. People used to think I was the gadget guy, and every time there was a new thing, I would be the first to get one. So I might have been the first person that most of my friends knew who had his own PC at his house, or some other gadget that I was the first to get, something like that. I've obviously slowed down, and I'm not the first to run out and get the newest iPhone or the newest watch or the newest whatever. I'm pretty good about keeping things for a while. And that's another thing. The Apple Watch is designed to last about 3 years. After that, the battery just won't be as good as it used to be. And you can get the battery replaced for just $79 if you go down to your local Apple store and drop it off there. And then maybe you get another couple years out of it. But it's that cycle of having to upgrade it and update it. And after, say, 4 or 5 years, even if you have a good battery in your Apple Watch, it won't be able to run the latest operating system, the latest apps, all the security updates, all that kind of stuff. So, you're looking at a watch that, best case scenario, within 5 years is really going to be worthless. And maybe you get your money's worth out of it in that time. That's okay. But meanwhile, I got some, Casio watches. I have some that I've had for over 35 years. And, they don't do everything a smartwatch can do, obviously, but they do last. So that's another thing to think about. And may very well be, again, old man thinking. I'm not like the young kids and, thinking about how much good you can have out of those 5 years with that watch, or even 3 years if you throw it away when the battery goes bad. All right. So what do you think? I mean, are you the kind of person who you love your smartwatch and you love your G-Shock, and you found a way to balance the two of those? I guess maybe there's this idea of a little bit of a threat. If I got a smartwatch that could do everything that my G-Shock could do plus more, then what would I do with my large collection of G-Shock watches? I'd never wear them, right? Because why would I need to? I don't think that's an issue, but I might consider that to be a little bit troublesome if I had a smartwatch and would often daily rely on a smartwatch. Then that's one wrist that's not going to wear a G-Shock that day. That makes me sad a little bit. But again, if you've got some ideas and you've got some thoughts about it and you found a way to strike a balance there, go ahead. I'll read the comments, and I might interact with some of those comments, but the more extreme comments, just like the judges in the Olympics, the super high and the super low scores, I might just throw those away and concentrate on some more level-headed comments in the middle ground there. And but yeah, let's kind of think about this. Maybe someone could convince me that now's the time to go for an Apple Watch, but probably not. I've got some other priorities, and I think I'll be okay. But I'm going to continue to do this move more often than the young kids who now can do this move. And that's really, really kind of fun that the world has changed that way. All right. Now, again, I've got a video all lined up for next week. It was gonna be this week, but I've held it off. So yeah, that'll be a fun one to watch, and I hope you will join me for that one and more coming up later here on the Good Timekeeping Show.